All right, we're back with another special segment for you. We've got a special guest here. He is a multi-talented musician, performer, writer. Please welcome from the band Lit, Kevin Baldus.
How you doing?
Hey, Kev. Looking good, man. OC in the house,
Yeah,
all the
yep,
way
still
from
on
Brea
town.
to NoHo. Here we go. So I know you growing up here in Southern California.
Yeah,
You love music. You saw a lot of shows.
yeah.
When did the mighty Van Halen first come on your radar?
Around 82, I was about 10 years old. I was really into Kiss,
Okay.
and my buddy across the street that actually works for Claire Brothers now,
Okay.
which is a huge
The
sound
biggest.
yeah, the biggest really. Um, he turned me on to Van Halen on the Diver Down album, which was around 82 when that album came out. I was about
Okay.
10. I
Just
remember
before the
listening
US
to it.
Festival.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And his older brother Eddie, I remember Eddie driving away, going to the '82 Diver Down tour, but Nelson did not go. Nelson was a little bit more my age, and then 2 years later in '84, they both drove away to go see Van Halen on the 1984 tour. Unfortunately, I never saw the original lineup. I
Okay.
did see Roth on Eat 'Em and Smile, and I saw Van Halen on 5150, so I
Okay.
just missed it. But uh, yeah, so 82 on the Diver Down album is when I really did the deep dive, and I went back. I had to go backwards, fair warning, women and children first and all that, but I was hooked and I still am.
Yeah, I mean, catching it in real time as I did, it was exciting to see the progression, but it's also exciting to get in at a later point and say, surprise, you got four other albums you can go check out now. So,
That was the plus side. The positive side to me coming in late was there was a whole catalog of great stuff to check out.
yeah, and to think that this is a band from a suburb like Pasadena. I always say without the Rose Bowl or the Rose Parade, people wouldn't even know what Pasadena is. I mean, might as well
You're
be
right.
Monrovia or Azusa or something. But
Yeah, you're right.
people know about the Rose Bowl, but they were just far enough out of Hollywood where they weren't, caught up in the scene of manipulation and all that. They were a core garage band that really developed on their own. I mean, David
You
Lee
know,
Roth was in a rival band, and they joined forces.
have you ever driven through I'm guessing you have, but have you driven
Yes,
through Pasadena and gone to some of the sites that you can look up the address, Eddie and Alex's
all
original house?
all the sites. You're talking to the man here.
Yeah,
The
so it's weird.
historian. You know, I,
Like,
I I not only been, and we do a candlelight vigil on Ed's passing anniversary every year in front of the childhood home.
oh, really?
They lived in an apartment. There was a triplex prior to that for a year
Wow.
down on Oakland Avenue, and then of course right up the street is PHS, Pasadena High School, which had like
Yeah.
5,000 students back when they went to it. But yeah, the
Yeah.
elementary school up the street, the junior high right up the street from them, all the spots, where Ed worked in, where he bought his first guitar, which was at Sears, which is about to be bulldozed, and now there's a music store where he used to work at. That's where he got his first Marshall at. But yeah, no, it's hallowed ground, man. You go to these places where they did backyard parties. And it's like, what? Van Halen played right here on this like backyard?
Yeah, there's enough flyers out there that you can look up the addresses, as I'm sure you did. The
Yeah.
crazy thing is their first Orange County performance was a stone's throw away from my house. And so I think it was around 76, 77 when they played Cars of Stars. Just
Wow.
off the 91 freeway and Knott Avenue and Orangethorpe was a place called Cars of Stars. My dad used to go there. He's told me about it. He goes, yeah, they would have a bunch of classic cars there. They'd bring them in, and I would go over there and look at them. Well, Van Halen played there. It was their first Orange County performance. There's a flyer you can buy on eBay, and I've considered buying just a replica of the flyer. I'm not going to
What
spend
what
five.
what street was that place on?
Not,
Oh,
it's
Knott
just
Avenue.
yeah, just north of the 91 freeway on Knott Avenue in Orangethorpe, and I
Okay.
think it says their first Orange County appearance. And
Yeah, because if they didn't do a second, their next one in '78 was Anaheim Stadium
yeah,
when they
yeah,
stole the show in front of Boston, Black Sabbath, and their opening act, Sammy Hagar, which was kind of fitting.
yeah. But that Cars of Stars show was literally next to my neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
I could walk there, and I was alive when they did that show. So I was probably in bed, or I don't know if they played during the day or what it was. But it's crazy to think that their first debut album didn't even come out yet, and I was just around the corner while they were playing.
Now, Cars and Stars, is that like a dealership or an auction house, or
I think
were
it was
they
more of
just
a museum, a place you could probably get
okay?
food and drinks at, and they had cars and stuff. I don't know
Okay.
too much about it, but I know that my dad went there and would look at classic cars and stuff.
So they would set up an outdoor stage to kind of pull people in.
Yeah,
Oh, that's amazing. I never heard about that. I would love to
yeah, yeah. If you,
look for that
I know,
location.
I know.
I'm sure the museum, is it still standing or is it long gone?
No, there's a. Last I heard, there was a some kind of restaurant in the corner that my family used to go to.
Okay.
That's in Boyna Park, and that's where I grew up,
Okay.
which is
So
right by
it's
Knott's Berry Farm.
so the location is still there. It's just not the same building.
Right. I'm sure the building's gone. And then I'm sure you're aware of the Van Halen opening for the Ramones off Studebaker.
Oh,
That's pretty close to my house as
yeah, the
well.
Golden West Ballroom.
Yeah, and that place is still there, but I think it's a Korean church now.
It is a church.
Yeah,
As some have told me, it's the church of rock and roll, you know.
yeah, that's pretty wild that that show happened there.
Yeah, they played with UFO there and a bunch of other bands. It was one of their regular spots, and the work ethic is what really, comes home when you look at the early Van Halen. They played everywhere, all over Southern California, sometimes for gas money. I mean, they literally played, and of course, when they got the Gazzari's residency, they played 5 sets a night, 5 nights a week for $50. So
Yeah, it's crazy.
I
Yeah,
mean, you look at any of those early interviews or anything, they never complain. Oh man, I got to set up the drums again. Oh shit, we got to lug our amp. They loved to play.
yeah. I would imagine they had friends there helping them, but maybe not. Who knows? It's
Well, if they had roadies, they were unpaid, so those guys deserve a big nod too.
we lit was kind of almost a house band at Gazzari's, and loading in and out of that place was not easy. It was a
Yeah,
stairwell all the way down to the stage
yeah,
because the club was built almost on a hill, well, pretty much on a hill,
yeah. It
and you
is a
would park
hill.
behind it, unload, and you'd have to carry all your gear down to the stage, and then it was kind of a pain in the butt, but a cool club nonetheless.
Yeah, a lot of history there. I know
Yeah.
when Dr. Roth, Dave's dad, heard the news that Bill Gazzari had passed, the godfather of rock and roll. Dave
Yep.
was on tour somewhere in the Midwest and called him, told him the news, and there was a pause on the phone. And Dr. Roth said, Dave said, Dad, I learned more from that guy than anybody in the business. And I think what he meant by that was the backyard parties would get shut down after like 10, 15 minutes. Ed was so loud. The police
Yeah.
would show up and start throwing people out. And if the kids got belligerent and threw, beer bottles, it was like a riot. So at Gazzari's, they had to play covers. They'd work their originals in there, but I think they really distilled the DNA of a hit song. And Dave was a fan of like dance music, funk music, soul music. So he brought that swagger that he had. And of course, Al and Ed came from the Netherlands and they had this kind of swing, this kind of European thing going. So I
Yeah.
think one thing that really stands out about Van Halen's music is the groove and the swing and the swagger,
Yeah.
But you definitely saw that with Roth on the Eat 'Em and Smile or all that. But yeah, no, the work ethic is just mind-boggling. A lot of kids today, want a shortcut. Give me the app, give me the YouTube video. They don't want to pay their dues. These guys put in the work, and it
No,
shows.
absolutely.
I mean, when
Yeah.
they got the chance to open for Black Sabbath, the seasoned, worldwide superstar act, Ozzy and Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler, Bill Ward, they were well seasoned, but Van Halen was like shot out of a cannon, and they weren't slowed down by the drugs and the booze. So, it
Yeah.
was kind of like watching a funeral dirge after after Van Halen left the stage, and
Yeah.
everybody was like, "Whoa, who the fuck was that opening band, man?" And it was like the changing of the guard.
Yeah.
They kicked Ozzy out of the band after the tour, and Van Halen were arena headliners at the end of their first tour.
Yep.
But yeah, take us back. What, in early conversations, besides digging the music, your buddies that worked with Claire or any of that, would you hear kind of stories of the live show before you got a chance to see any?
Yeah, I mean, people would talk about it, and obviously magazines were a much bigger thing back in the day. So,
Yeah,
as you remember,
Circus and all that,
yeah,
Operator.
I
Even the LA
collected all of
Weekly,
them.
we're covering, Van Halen on the bar scene. I know Rodney Bingenheimer, of course, later of K Rock, was a big supporter early on because,
Yeah.
of course, K Rock was based in Pasadena originally. Rodney was the first one to ever play, and he played a test pressing of Running with the Devil. David
Hmm.
brought into him,
Yeah.
but yeah, what a great scene. You look back at those late 70s coming up, the whole punk rock scene and new wave, and Van Halen stood way out, but some people thought, oh, that's like that old school Zeppelin thing. But like the song Atomic Punk, they really were, they had a punk attitude just in their work ethic and the way they moved.
Yeah. Hmm.
But with Ed, it wasn't just playing a few Ramones chords, man. He had something more to say. Nothing against the Ramones, but it and then Roth comes out and like, whoa, this guy's a martial artist. He's a limber, acrobatic. He's jumping off the drum riser. I mean, and those lyrics he wrote were just perfect for a teenage, mind state. Everybody was like, they were like the anti-authority party band. Every album they come out, Women and Children First, or Van Halen 2, or Fair Warning, leading up to Diver Down. It was like a soundtrack to like, teenage delinquency.
Hmm.
a lot of chasing girls and booze and weed and whatever, it was amazing. Now, I mentioned the US Festival. Did you have any friends that went to that?
Yeah, quite a few friends. My buddy Scott went.
Right.
My buddy, God, I thought my buddy Jimmy went. Yeah, I had a handful of friends that went. But it sounded like across the board, people were either fried by the time Van Halen hit, because the guys I know were probably pretty young
Yeah.
in '82.
Yeah, it's like a 12-hour show. It went
Yeah,
from like noon to midnight. And what a lot of people don't realize is it was very, very hot during the day. But when
yeah,
you're in the desert or a canyon like that, when
yeah,
the sun goes down and the wind comes through, it gets chilly. So if
yeah,
all you are in is a tank top all day, guess what?
yeah,
You're gonna be freezing your ass off. So
yeah.
I know that it was probably an endurance test for a lot, but I do always call it, that was Van Halen's biggest backyard party ever, because it was a non-traditional. It wasn't in a venue. There were no seats. It was literally in a field. And Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, just decided to put on this big festival. Clash headlined the first day, Bowie headlined the third day, and Van Halen right in the middle.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, it's too bad you didn't see that original crew. I'm sure you've seen endless videos, and of course Ed and Al and Mike, they still carried the torch, but
mm,
there's nothing that will match that early combustion.
yeah,
Tawny Katane, I did her last interview before she passed down in OC there, and she toured with the band. She was dating um, the lighting director, the creative director, who later managed the Black Crows. But she rode on the band bus, and she said those guys were like nitroglycerin. When they hit the stage, David Lee Roth, Edward Van Halen, Alex Van Halen, Michael Anthony, they were a well-oiled machine. You know,
yeah,
and they had this take no prisoners attitude. Like,
mm,
good luck following this.
yeah.
Well, tell us your memories now. Which was the first one you went to, the 5150 or the Eat 'em and Smile?
To be honest with you, I'm not really sure which one. I went to
Had to be
first.
around the same time, really.
Yeah, around the summertime, everybody does their
Where,
tours
where
around
were
the
the
summer.
venues? We talking Irvine Meadows or
No, it was the Forum. Both of them were at the
the
Forum, and
Forum?
and I
Okay.
I saw 5150. My sister took me, and I was 14 years old, and then I went with some buddies to go see Roth, and both shows were amazing. I love that 5150 album. It's
Yeah,
great, but
it is. It's the third biggest selling album in their catalog history
yeah,
after the debut in 1984.
yeah,
Tell us
yeah,
your memories of your favorite memories of the show. Just seeing Edward play live, and of course Sammy
yeah.
was already a seasoned pro. His solo career and all the way back to the first Montrose album, which a lot of people feel is like the blueprint for Van Halen, with Ted Templeman producing and all.
Yeah. It was a great show, from what I remember. I did what I didn't remember is they did three shows. Van Halen did three shows. Roth did one that I can recall, but a buddy of mine shot all three nights of Van Halen, and I was going to get a print from him. I probably still will. And he's all, "What show were you at?" And I said, "What do you mean? What show was that?" I was at the show, and he goes, "No, there was three nights. They did three nights." And I was like, "Crap, I didn't know that." So
Yeah, Dave added a second night. There were two Eat 'em and Smile shows at the Forum.
okay, with Cinderella opening,
Yeah.
yeah. I actually recorded the David Lee Roth show on cassette. I still have it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What kind of audio quality is that?
I mean, it's a tape recorder from the audience, so it's decent enough. You can tell what they're playing. You
Yeah,
can hear Roth talking and
it's a good
stuff.
souvenir for you, but for somebody that
Yeah.
wasn't there, it's probably a little rough.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. You got to see both factions, and of course, Dave's band. He had Billy Sheehan, one of the monster bass players of all time,
Yep.
is Steve Vai on guitar, and Greg Bissonette, the monster drummer, who now continues to play with Ringo Starr.
Yeah.
And of course, Steve Vai's, guitar god out there touring
Mhm.
the world on his own and with Joe
Yeah.
Satriani and all that. But
Hmm.
yeah, they did a pretty good job of replicating those Van Halen songs. Obviously
Yeah.
they would play the VH hits as well as Dave's, Yankee Rose and all that stuff he was doing, California Girls and all that. Uh,
Yeah.
but I know conversely, when Sammy joined, he wanted to play as much of 5150 as possible. He didn't want to play that many raw songs. Of course, they did You Really Got Me, the covers, the Kink songs and stuff like that. But he was reluctant to, you know, try and act like David Lee Roth or sing too many of those. I think
Yeah.
I think the crowd pretty much sang Jump. That was like a national anthem at that point.
Right.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you've continued to enjoy them and listen to all the albums. If you had to choose, what would be your favorite Roth era album and your favorite Sammy era album?
Sammy would be 5150, and Roth would probably be Fair Warning.
Okay.
But I love them all, and I have a special spot for Diver Down, which I know Van Halen doesn't really, because it's a lot of cover songs, and it was kind of a forced album because of Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
But I do love that album. I think it's got a really cool edge to it.
Well, coming off of Fair Warning, I think the sounds are incredible on that. There's no question Dave thought putting out a single like Pretty Woman would give them some time. Unfortunately, it did the opposite. Warner Brothers said, "Oh my God, you got a hit. Where's the album?" They're like, "What album?" You
Yeah.
but you know, you can't undercut the fact that Van Halen always Van Halenized those covers. I mean, Dancing in the Street didn't exactly sound like the original Motown, and even that King song, "Where Have All the Good Times Gone?" Man, they killed it with "You Really Got Me." I mean, they really, in a lot of ways, opened up a lot of people's eyes to who the Kinks were. Being a
Hmm.
British Invasion '60s band. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that album is unjustly kind of shit on. Of course they had their father on the Big Bad Bill song, play a little clarinet, which is obviously going to sound like a novelty song to the hard rock fans. And then of course that Roy Rogers Happy Trails, that's just something goofy they used to close their shows with.
Yeah.
they'd all walk to the edge of the stage and sing Happy Trails. You know, it was,
Mhm.
they were like these psychotic, cowboys, on the run. It was, yeah. So I know a lot of guitar fans really love the, Mean Street and Unchained and all the, um, Fair Warning, but frankly, it's their least selling album of the
Yeah.
Roth era. It's because they didn't have a big hit. At least even on, Women and Children First, they had, and A Cradle Will Rock and Everybody Wants Some, and all those were big arena songs.
Mhm.
But and I know you've seen the video of when they played in '81 up in Oakland. They filmed those three songs, Unchained and all that from the, um, Fair Warning album. Those are some of the best official videos Van Halen ever put out. And it boggles the mind. You're signed to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is a TV and movie company, and you guys didn't film the whole show, and you never recorded a live album.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's like that probably could have matched, Frampton Comes Alive or something, one of the biggest live albums ever. Yeah, I it's kind of strange, but as you know, back in the early days, these video companies charge so much money to make a video. And Warner Brothers said, no, we'll just do those three promo clips. Van Halen really wasn't even on MTV yet. So they're probably thinking, oh, we're just going to, those will be underground videos anyway. But
Yeah.
that's probably one of the biggest, mistakes somebody made.
Yeah.
And I kind of have to put it on Warner Brothers because you would have thought they would suggested that. I mean, they had big bands like Prince, Madonna, Fleetwood Mac, all that stuff over there. But that is amazing, amazing stories. Now, any we love your photos and we appreciate you letting us use those. Any run-ins? Did you meet David Lee Roth or any of the guys ever on the road or hanging out in Hollywood or anything?
I did an interview for VH1 once, and I did the second half of the day. The first half of the day was David Lee Roth, so that was the first time I met him. I think that was in '04, I believe. And he was really nice, and we got a photo together, and he signed a poster for me. I knew ahead of time that he was going to be there.
Okay.
And then when he was on tour with Sammy Hagar, I got to go backstage into his little area and hang out with him there. And I got yet another photo with him that ended up being in Metal Edge magazine. We had our own like full page. Um,
That was the Sam and Dave tour. Sammy and Dave out together.
yeah,
Okay.
my buddy Paul Gagano was the editor of Metal Edge, and I ran into him backstage, and I told him I was trying to get a photo with Roth, and he goes, "If you get it," he goes, "get it to me, and I'll put it in Metal Edge." So I did, not knowing he was going to make it a full page pinup, which was pretty funny because growing up when I was younger, collecting all the magazines and all the pinups that I could of anything Van Halen, that I would have my own pinup with Roth. It was kind of full circle.
No, that's amazing stuff. I know it's fleeting, and you hear all those stories how Dave really kind of spun Sammy out. Sammy's kind of a camaraderie guy. He's easy to get along with, and Dave took it like this. It's me or you, buddy. He
Yeah,
really went into that tour like I'm gonna show you up every night.
yeah,
Sammy's like, well, why don't we just make it a great show, both sets? Why are we having that attitude? So it is what it is, and they carry on, and we hope Dave still got some shows in him. Hard to say, but with the passing of Sammy, or I'm sorry, with the passing of Edward, it is really the end of the band and end of that era. And being in Orange County, so close to the NAMM show and everything. I mean, Edward has such a presence in the guitar world. I mean, he changed so much, and everybody wanted to get Ed's guitars, Ed's strings, Ed's pedals, Ed's you know cases. I
mm,
mean, whatever Ed played, his amps, they wanted it. They thought they were going to sound like Edward Van Halen, and then they realized it's all in his hands. It's his
yeah,
left hand and his right hand. Ed was such a underrated rhythm player. You hear Unchained in some of those songs, he wasn't just a shredder. He wasn't sitting there, Ingveing people out. He really had, like I say, he had that swagger and that swing, that groove with that right hand, the rhythm.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you talking about the mighty Van Halen and Diamond Dave. I know you carry him strong in your heart. Being from Southern California, I know it inspired a lot of people because before that, all these rock stars were British. It's Zeppelin, it's the Beatles, it's Deep Purple, it's all these British bands. And now there's a local band coming out of the suburbs. And like you say, you played in Gazzari's and the Whiskey. And um, did you ever visit the Starwood before they bulldozed that place?
No, I never been
Okay.
there.
Of course, they frequented all those, but like you say, down there, the Golden West Ballroom in
Yeah.
Norwalk. And I'm going to look up that Cars of Stars, man. That sounds like a great place. There's got to be some archive photos or something of that place.
Yeah, I know on eBay you can always find a replica of the flyer, or
Okay.
sometimes you can even find the original flyer for sale, and it's pretty expensive. I'm not looking to spend that kind of money on original. I'd buy a replica just to have it on in the
Yeah, of
garage wall.
course. I don't need the original art. Just give me a print.
Yeah.
But our special guest, the one and only Kevin Baldus of the group Lit, and sharing his mighty Van Halen and David Lee Roth stories. Thanks so much, Kevin.
You got it, man.